The stars blurred into white streaks as Rion Thales fought with the dying controls of his cargo hauler. The ion storm had come from nowhere, tearing through the shipping lanes like a hungry beast. His ship groaned and screamed as another wave of electromagnetic energy ripped through the hull. Come on, Rion muttered, his knuckles white on the steering column. The moon of Velora Prime loomed ahead, a frozen ball of ice and rock that wasn't supposed to be anywhere near his flight path. The storm had pushed him hundreds of thousands of kilometers off course. The ship's nose dipped violently. Rion felt his stomach drop as gravity took hold. He was going down whether he liked it or not. The landing would either kill him or leave him stranded on one of the most inhospitable moons in the sector. Neither option sounded appealing. The impact came hard and fast. Metal shrieked against ice. The world spun in a chaos of white and black. Something sharp caught Rion's shoulder, and he felt warm blood spreading across his shirt. Then everything went still. For a long moment, Rion just sat there, breathing hard, tasting copper and smoke. His ears rang. His left shoulder throbbed with a deep bone-grinding pain. But he was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he was alive. He unbuckled himself with shaking hands and crawled out through the cracked viewport. The cold hit him like a physical blow. Velora Prime's atmosphere was barely breathable, thin and acidic. His suit's sensors flashed warnings about the temperature. -40 degrees and dropping as night approached. The hauler had carved a long scar across a field of blue, ice before slamming into a ridge of black stone. Pieces of hull plating lay scattered behind him like breadcrumbs. The main engine was cracked open, leaking coolant that froze instantly into green crystals. Rion pressed his hand against his injured shoulder and assessed the situation. No rescue beacon. No communication array. No way to call for help. The nearest shipping lane was weeks away at standard speeds, and he didn't have a functioning ship anymore anyway. Brilliant, he said to the empty landscape. Just brilliant. He salvaged what he could from the wreckage. A survival pack with medical supplies, nutrient bars, and a water recycler. A plasma cutter that might work for a few more hours. His toolkit, battered but intact. A thermal blanket that would help, but wouldn't be enough in these temperatures. The acid storm warnings on his suit began to flash red. He had maybe 3 hours before the next weather system rolled in. Rion scanned the horizon and spotted a dark opening in the ridge about 200 meters away. A cave system, hopefully deep enough to provide shelter. He gathered his supplies and started walking. Each step sent pain shooting through his shoulder, but he gritted his teeth and kept moving. Stopping meant dying, and Rion Thales had survived too much to die on a frozen rock in the middle of nowhere. The cave entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for him to squeeze through with his pack. Inside, the temperature rose slightly. Not warm, but better than the killing cold outside. Rion switched on his flashlight and ventured deeper. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber after about 30 meters. Ice formations hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls, glowing faintly blue in his light. The space was protected from the wind, dry, and large enough to set up a proper camp. Rion was arranging his supplies when he noticed the marks on the floor. Long gouges in the ice, too regular to be natural. Something had been dragged through here. Something big dot his instincts screamed at him to leave, to find another shelter. But curiosity and the need for a complete survey of his new home pushed him forward. He followed the drag marks deeper into the cave system. The temperature rose as he descended. Strange mineral deposits on the walls gave off a faint phosphorescent glow, bathing everything in shades of green and purple. The drag marks continued, leading him through a series of connected chambers. Then he heard it. A sound like wind chimes mixed with a low, rumbling growl. It echoed through the tunnels, making it impossible to tell where it came from. Rion's hand went to the plasma cutter on his belt. The final chamber took his breath away. It was massive, easily 100 meters across, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. And in the center, trapped in a web of crackling energy beams, was a dragon. Rion had seen pictures, of course. Everyone knew about dragons. Ancient species, incredibly rare, more intelligent than most spacefaring races gave them credit for. They lived on protected worlds, kept to themselves, avoided contact with the rest of the galaxy. Seeing one in person was supposed to be impossible. This one was young, maybe 4 meters from nose to tail. Its scales were pure white, almost translucent, catching and reflecting the cave's strange light. 2 wings, torn and bleeding, were pinned against its body by the energy cage. Its eyes, bright amber and filled with pain, locked onto Rion the moment he entered. The dragon tried to pull away, but the cage held firm. Each movement made the energy beams crackle and spark, burning deeper into scales and flesh. Dark purple blood pooled beneath its body. Rion recognized the cage design. Poacher technology, illegal across most of civilized space. Military-grade equipment designed to capture and hold valuable creatures without killing them. Dragons were worth fortunes on the black market. Their scales, blood, and organs were used in everything from medicine to weapons manufacturing. Someone had set this trap. Someone had caught this dragon and left it here to die slowly while they went to gather more equipment or summon a retrieval team. The dragon made that sound again, that wind chime growl that Rion felt in his chest. It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. Rion knew he should leave. He had his own survival to worry about. Getting involved with a trapped dragon meant dealing with whoever had set the trap. It meant complications he couldn't afford. But looking into those amber eyes, seeing the terror and pain and desperate hope, Rion knew he couldn't walk away. He approached slowly, hands visible and empty. The dragon tensed, ready to fight or flee if it could do either. "Easy," Rion said softly. "I'm going to help you." He didn't know if the dragon understood his words, but something in his tone must have communicated his intent. The dragon stopped struggling and watched as Rion circled the cage, studying the energy nodes and power conduits. He had maybe 4 hours before the poachers returned. 4 hours to free a dragon, treat its wounds, and figure out what to do next. Rion pulled out his toolkit and got to work. The energy cage was more sophisticated than Rion had initially thought. Each node was interconnected, designed so that tampering with one would trigger all the others to increase power. A failsafe to prevent exactly what he was trying to do. Rion sat back on his heels, studying the problem. His shoulder ached where he'd bound it with medical tape and synthetic skin. The dragon watched him with those intelligent amber eyes, barely breathing. "This is going to take a while," Rion muttered. He started with the power source, a compact fusion cell buried in the cave floor. The poachers had drilled into the rock and sealed it in, probably assuming nobody would find this place before they returned. They hadn't counted on someone landing nearby. Using his plasma cutter on its lowest setting, Rion carefully exposed the cell's casing. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold. One wrong move and the cage would surge, potentially killing the dragon instantly. The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a question. Rion glanced up to find it watching his hands with intense focus. "You understand what I'm doing, don't you?" Rion said, "You know I'm trying to help." The dragon's eyes met his, and Rion felt a strange sensation, like a gentle pressure against his thoughts. Not quite telepathy, but something close. A sense of acknowledgement, of gratitude mixed with fear. "Just hang on," Rion said. "I'm going to get you out." It took 3 hours of careful work. Rion bypassed the fail-safes one by one, rerouting power through temporary connections he built from salvaged ship components. His hands cramped. His eyes burned from focusing in the dim light. But gradually, the energy beams weakened. When the final node went dark, the dragon collapsed with a sound that was half relief, half agony. The cage had been holding it in place, and without that support, its injured wings couldn't bear weight. Rion approached carefully. Up close, he could see how young the creature really was. The scales along its spine were still soft in places, not fully hardened. This was barely more than a child. The burns where the energy beams had cut into flesh were severe. The wing membranes were partially melted, edges blackened and weeping that strange purple blood. Without treatment, infection would kill the dragon within days. "Okay," Rion said, pulling out his medical kit. "This is going to hurt, but I need you to trust me." He started with the worst wounds, cleaning them with antiseptic spray designed for human use. The dragon flinched, but didn't pull away. Rion worked steadily, applying synthetic skin patches and broad-spectrum antibiotics. He had no idea if human medicine would work on dragon biology, but burns were burns. The principles should be similar. As he worked, Rion talked about his life as a wandering mechanic, taking odd jobs across the sector, about the ion storm that had brought him here, about his crashed ship and his own uncertain future. The dragon listened, its breathing gradually becoming less labored. When Rion finished bandaging the worst of the wounds, exhaustion hit him like a wave. He'd been running on adrenaline for hours. His shoulder throbbed. His hands shook. The dragon shifted, moving carefully to avoid putting weight on its injured wings. It lowered its head and gently nudged Rion's uninjured shoulder with its snout. The gesture was unmistakable. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Rion said, his voice rough with emotion. He set up camp in the chamber, using his thermal blanket to create a small shelter. The dragon curled its body around the shelter, sharing its warmth. Despite everything, despite the pain and fear and uncertainty, Rion felt safer than he had in years. Over the next several days, a routine developed. Rion would venture to the upper caves to check for signs of the poacher's return and to collect ice for the water recycler. The dragon, which Rion had started calling Frost for its white scales, would rest and heal. Frost couldn't fly, might never fly again given the damage to its wings. But it could move around the cave system, and it proved surprisingly helpful. The dragon's body heat kept the chamber warm. Its keen senses alerted Rion to changes in the weather outside, and its presence, somehow, made the isolation bearable. Communication developed between them. Not words, but gestures and sounds that carried meaning. Frost would tilt its head in a particular way to ask a question. Rion would tap his chest to indicate himself, point to indicate Frost. They created a shared language born of necessity and genuine affection. On the 7th day, Frost brought Rion a gift. The dragon disappeared into the deeper tunnels and returned carrying something in its mouth. A cluster of crystalline formations that glowed with internal light. Frost placed them carefully near Rion's shelter. "These are beautiful," Rion said, turning one crystal in his hands. "Thank you, Frost." The dragon made that wind chime sound, softer now, almost like a purr. But on the 10th day, everything changed. Rion was checking his salvaged equipment when Frost suddenly went rigid, its head swiveling toward the cave entrance. A low growl built in the dragon's chest. "What is it?" Rion asked. Then he heard it too. The unmistakable whine of plasma engines. Ships, multiple ships, landing outside the cave system. The poachers had returned. Rion's heart hammered against his ribs. He looked at Frost, at this magnificent creature he'd come to care for deeply. The dragon looked back at him with those amber eyes, and Rion saw trust there. Frost was trusting him to know what to do. "Hide," Rion said, pointing to the deepest tunnels. "Go deep and stay quiet." But Frost didn't move. Instead, The dragon positioned itself between Rion and the cave entrance, wings spread despite the pain it must have caused, protecting him. "No," Rion said firmly. "They want you, not me. I can't let them take you." Voices echoed from the entrance. Harsh, efficient voices calling coordinates and checking equipment. At least 6 people, maybe more. Rion grabbed his plasma cutter. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was all he had. He positioned himself in front of Frost. "Then we face them together," he said. Frost's growl deepened, and Rion felt that strange pressure against his thoughts again. Not words, but meaning, unity, partnership, family. The first figure appeared at the chamber entrance, backlit by portable lights. A tall man in tactical armor, holding a neural stunner. "Well," the man said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Looks like our dragon found a friend." More figures filed in behind him, all armed, all watching Rion and Frost with predatory interest. Rion raised his plasma cutter, knowing it was futile, but refusing to back down. "You're making a mistake," the tall man said. "That creature is worth more money than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. Walk away now, and we'll give you a percentage. A generous percentage." "No," Rion said simply. The man sighed. "Then you're going to die for nothing. Your choice." Behind him, Frost's growl reached a pitch that made the cave walls vibrate. The dragon's body began to glow, scales brightening with inner light, and Rion realized that maybe, just maybe, they had a chance after all. The standoff lasted only seconds before everything erupted into chaos. Frost released a blast of freezing air from its mouth, a cloud of white that turned the moisture in the cave into instant snow. The poachers scattered, shouting curses and firing their weapons blindly into the sudden blizzard. "Move!" Rion grabbed his pack and ran, Frost limping beside him. The dragon's injured wings couldn't carry them both, but its legs were strong and fast. They plunged into the deeper tunnels, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Rion's mind raced. The poachers had ships, weapons, and numbers. He had a plasma cutter and a half-healed dragon. The odds were impossible. But giving up meant Frost would be caged again, sold to the highest bidder, possibly killed and harvested for parts. That wasn't going to happen. The tunnel split 3 ways. Rion chose the left path at random, hoping the complex cave system would buy them time. Frost pressed close to his side, its breath coming in quick puffs of vapor. "Can you do that ice breath thing again?" Rion asked. Frost made an uncertain sound. The dragon was young, still learning its abilities. That first blast had probably been instinct, fear triggering a defense mechanism. They ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The tunnels grew narrower, forcing them to slow down. Behind them, the poachers' voices grew distant, then closer again. They were spreading out, trying to cut off escape routes. Rion's shoulder screamed in pain. His lungs burned from breathing the thin, acidic air. But he kept moving, because stopping meant capture. The tunnel opened into a small chamber with a frozen stream running through it. Rion skidded to a stop. Dead end. Smooth walls. No other exits except the way they'd come. "No, no, no," Rion muttered, spinning around. Frost pressed against him, trembling with exhaustion and fear. Footsteps echoed from the tunnel. Getting closer. Rion raised his plasma cutter, knowing it wouldn't be enough dot. Then Frost did something unexpected. The dragon pressed its forehead against Rion's chest, and that strange pressure returned. But stronger this time, clearer. Images flashed through Rion's mind. Not words, but concepts. Trust. Together. Below. Rion looked down at the frozen stream. Under the ice? Frost pulled away and slammed one clawed foot against the ice. It cracked, but didn't break. The dragon tried again, and this time the ice shattered, revealing dark water flowing beneath. "You want us to swim?" Rion stared at the water. It would be freezing, probably fatal within minutes. But staying meant certain capture. The footsteps were right outside the chamber now. Voices called to each other, coordinating their approach. Rion looked at Frost. The dragon's amber eyes met his, steady and sure, trusting him to trust back. "Together," Rion said. They jumped. The cold was beyond anything Rion had ever experienced. It seized his muscles, stopped his breath, turned his thoughts to molasses. But Frost's clawed foot caught his jacket, pulling him through the underwater current. The dragon's body glowed faintly even underwater, providing just enough light to see the stream, carried them fast through a submerged tunnel. Rion's lungs began to burn. His vision darkened at the edges. Just as he thought he couldn't hold his breath another second, they burst through the surface into an air pocket. Rion gasped and choked, clinging to a rocky ledge. Frost pulled itself up beside him, water streaming off its white scales. They were in another cave system, one the poachers didn't know about. The water had carried them far from the pursuit. For now, they were safe, but safety was temporary. Rion knew that. The poachers wouldn't give up. That dragon was worth too much money. They'd search every tunnel, every chamber, until they found their prize. As Rion caught his breath, he heard new sounds from above. Different engines, larger ships, more people arriving. The poachers must have called for reinforcements. Frost made a low, worried sound. The dragon's ears were pinned back, its body tense. "We need help," Rion said, thinking out loud. "We can't fight them alone." But who would help? Rion was a nobody, a wandering mechanic with no connections or resources. Frost was a dragon, a creature most civilizations viewed as either myth or commodity. Then Rion remembered something. Before his crash, he'd picked up a distress signal, automated, repeating from somewhere on Velora Prime. Another crash survivor, maybe, or a research station in trouble. He'd planned to investigate after completing his delivery run. If there were other people on this moon, people in trouble, maybe they'd be willing to trade help for help. It was a slim chance. But it was something. "Can you track signals?" Rion asked Frost. "Electromagnetic frequencies?" Frost tilted its head, considering. Then the dragon closed its eyes, and Rion felt that pressure against his thoughts again. Frost was reaching out, sensing the environment in ways Rion couldn't understand. The dragon's eyes snapped open. It pointed with its snout toward a tunnel leading deeper into the cave system. "You found something?" Frost rumbled an affirmative. They started moving again, following Frost's senses through the labyrinth. The dragon led them through chambers filled with glowing crystals, and across bridges of natural stone spanning bottomless chasms. The journey took hours, and all the while, Rion could hear the distant sounds of the search parties above. Finally, they emerged into a chamber that wasn't natural. Smooth metal walls, dim emergency lighting, and the unmistakable hum of technology. An old research station, abandoned or lost. Rion approached a still-functioning control panel. His mechanic's eyes quickly decoded the setup. Communications array, mostly intact. Power cells running on backup reserves. If he could boost the signal, he might be able to call for help. He worked quickly, rerouting power and adjusting frequencies. Frost watched the entrance, alert for any signs of pursuit. "Come on," Rion muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. "Work, please work." The array crackled to life. Static filled the chamber, then cleared slightly. Rion grabbed the microphone. "This is Rion Thales broadcasting from Velora Prime. I need help. There are illegal poachers on this moon hunting an endangered species. If anyone can hear this, please respond." Only static answered. Rion tried again, changing frequencies, boosting power. "This is Rion Thales. Mayday, Mayday. Poachers on Velora Prime need immediate assistance. Still nothing. Ryan's hope began to fade. They were too far from the shipping lanes. Nobody was listening. Then, cutting through the static, a voice. "This is Captain Vex Callahan of the independent freighter Stormchaser. We read you, Rion Thales. What's your situation?" Relief flooded through Rion. "Captain Callahan, thank God. I'm stranded with a wounded dragon. Poachers are hunting us. Military-grade equipment, at least a dozen armed individuals. We need help." A pause. Then, "Did you say dragon? As in an actual dragon?" "Yes, it's just a juvenile, injured. They want to sell it on the black market." Another pause, longer this time. Ryan's heart sank. This captain was going to refuse. Why would any freelancer risk their ship and crew for a stranger and a dragon? But then the voice came back. Different now. Harder, more determined. "Understood. We're changing course. ETA 40 minutes. Can you hold out that long?" "I don't know," Rion admitted. "But we'll try." "Then try hard. Because I'm bringing friends, and we're going to shut these poachers down permanently." Callahan out. Rion stared at the communicator, hardly believing what had just happened. Help was coming. Real help. Frost nudged his arm gently. When Rion looked at the dragon, he saw something new in those amber eyes. Not just trust or gratitude. Hope. 40 minutes, Rion said, checking his plasma cutter's charge. "We just need to survive 40 more minutes." From somewhere above, explosions echoed through the cave system. The poachers were getting frustrated, using heavier weapons to blast through obstacles. They were getting closer. Rion and Frost moved to the station's entrance, ready to defend their position. Outside, through the cave tunnels, Rion could see lights moving. Lots of lights. The poachers were converging on their location. Frost's body began to glow again, scales brightening with inner light. The dragon positioned itself protectively in front of Rion, ready to fight despite its injuries. "Together," Rion whispered. Gripping his plasma cutter, Frost rumbled agreement. The first poacher appeared in the tunnel. Then another. Then 6 more, all armed, all advancing. The tall man from before stepped forward, his neural stunner aimed at Frost. "End of the line. That dragon belongs to us." "No," Rion said. "Frost doesn't belong to anyone. And in about 35 minutes, you're going to have much bigger problems than one mechanic and one dragon." The man laughed. "You think we're afraid of local authorities? We own half the officials in this sector. I'm not talking about local authorities." The man's smile faded slightly. "What did you do?" Before Rion could answer, new sounds echoed through the caves. Not footsteps. Something else. Heavy, mechanical, military. A woman's voice, amplified and commanding, rang through the station. "This is Officer Myra Stellan of the Imperial Conservation Corps. You are in violation of galactic, endangered species protocols. Surrender immediately, or face lethal force." The poachers' faces went white. The Imperial Conservation Corps wasn't local police or corrupt officials. They were elite, ruthless, and they took the protection of endangered species very seriously. A tall man turned to Rion, his expression a mix of fury and fear. "You called the Imperials?" "Better," Rion said. "I called someone who called the Imperials." Plasma fire erupted in the tunnels. The poachers scattered, some trying to fight, others running for their ships. But the Imperials had blocked all exits. Within minutes, it was over. Officer Stellan entered the chamber, her armor pristine despite the fighting. She was tall, dark-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. Behind her, a squad of heavily armed soldiers secured the area, She looked at Frost, then at Rion. "You're the one who sent the distress call?" "Yes, ma'am. And you freed this dragon from an illegal trap?" "Yes, ma'am." Stellan studied him for a long moment. Then, to Ryan's surprise, she smiled slightly. "The Conservation Corps thanks you for your service to an endangered species. There will be a substantial reward for your actions and information leading to this poaching ring's arrest." "I don't want a reward," Rion said. "I just want to know Frost will be safe." Stellan's eyebrows rose. "Frost?" "The dragon. I've been calling it Frost." The officer approached Frost carefully. The dragon watched her, but didn't retreat. Stellan examined the injuries, her expression hardening. "These wounds are severe. We'll need to transport the dragon to a proper medical facility. With the right treatment, full recovery is possible." Rion felt his heart clench. Will Frost be returned to its home world? Eventually, yes. Once it's healed and strong enough for the journey. "Can I say goodbye?" Stellan nodded, stepping back to give them space. Rion approached Frost, feeling emotion tighten his throat. The dragon lowered its head, pressing its forehead against Ryan's chest one last time. That strange pressure returned, and Rion understood what Frost was saying. Not goodbye. "Thank you, friend. Always." "Always," Rion whispered, his hand resting on the dragon's scaled neck dot as the Imperial medics carefully transported Frost to their ship. Captain Callahan arrived, a grizzled man with kind eyes. "Sorry we were late," he said, "but it looks like you managed fine without us." "You called the Imperials," Rion said. "How?" Callahan shrugged. "I used to run with the Conservation Corps before going independent. Still have contacts. When you said dragon, I knew they'd respond fast." "Thank you," Rion said sincerely. "You saved both our lives. You saved the dragon first." "I just finished the job." Callahan clapped him on the shoulder. "Need a lift out of here? My ship's got plenty of room, and I could use a good mechanic." Rion looked back at the Imperial ship carrying Frost to safety. He thought about his crashed hauler, his wandering life, the loneliness he'd felt for so long. Then he thought about Frost's amber eyes, full of trust and hope. "Yeah," Rion said. "I think I'd like that." As they walked toward the storm chaser, Rion made himself a promise. Someday, when Frost was healed and returned to its home world, he'd find a way to visit, to see his friend flying free under an open sky, because some bonds, once formed, could never truly be broken. The frozen moon of Velora Prime faded behind them as the storm chaser lifted off, carrying Rion toward a new future. One where kindness had been rewarded, where courage had made a difference, and where one man's choice to help a suffering creature had changed everything. In the cargo hold of the Imperial ship, Frost rested under careful watch, its scales glowing softly as healing began. And in the dragon's dreams, amber eyes looked toward a distant sky, waiting for the day when two friends might meet again. The end was really just a beginning.